Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Pies Presser. A bit of draft talk tonight alongside a discussion regarding the new rule changes, some injury updates, and anything else in between. It's time to talk all things black and white. Whoa, a bit slow on the transition there, am I? Ladies and gentlemen, the Pies Presser is proudly sponsored by TS&L Neon, Melbourne's trusted signage specialist for commercial, LED and neon signage. For more information, visit tslsigns.com. Link is in the description, and they are family owned and service all of Victoria. How are we all doing, those early comers in the chat? It feels like it's been some time, hasn't it, since we've streamed? I mean, look, naturally there was always going to be this reduction of live streams, I would say, just because of the how often can you repeat the same thing over and over. So it's always good to get a little bit of a refresher. And I don't know what the frequency looks like over the next couple of months. It's all contingent on how busy the news is and what information we get, and we'll see. Preseason starts the week after Melbourne Cup, I believe. So Melbourne Cup's next week. So the week after that, we'll see the first to fourth year's return. But we know that typically a number of other players beyond their fourth year would likely return and get in early, which is what we saw last year for the most part as well. So yeah, we'll keep a close eye on it. But tonight, just want to sort of have an open conversation about, and if you guys want to bring your thoughts towards it, regarding draft. We can talk rule changes. We can talk injury updates, which is probably where I want to start with firstly. So Herald Sun released today Collingwood's injury list. Dan Houston underwent a minor procedure on his hip that will see him held back for full training until at least January. He will be on a modified program for at least the first few weeks. Interesting. Just regarding Dan Houston. So, admittedly or evidently, carrying a hip injury throughout some point of the year, and we can admit he's not the most athletic player going around, but it did look like, we think back to some moments late in the season, you go, geez, something's not quite right, or at least we'll come into the realization that Houston is far from the upper echelons of what an athletic specimen is, because there were times where the ball was at ground level and it didn't seem like he could compete at ground level at times, particularly talking around the role as the wingman, which is crucial to some level to be able to compete at ground level. So maybe that makes a bit more sense and it sheds a little bit more light on the whole Dan Houston thing. But I think the same goes for a Dan McStay. It's like at the end of the day, same goes with Brody Mychik. Like if you're on the field, you will be judged equally against every other player that is on the field that night, that day, whatever it is. It's just the way it goes. It's harsh, and there'll be times where you will never hear about players who are carrying injuries and they don't really disclose what they were going through with, and some of these players, if they don't require surgery, you're probably never going to hear about it. There's always whispers around certain things happening, but there's no true confirmation unless the player speaks out, the coach speaks out, or they have an operation where you can't hide those rumors. So look, like I said, it's tough. It's an unforgiving industry and environment. So yeah, shed some more light on the season that was for someone like Dan Houston and Dan McStay as well in some at least the latter periods of the season. Speaking of the other Dan McStay's shoulder issue that saw him undergo surgery in early October had plagued him in the back half of the season, will sideline him from contact training until late January, with the forward commencing a running and weight program upon his return. So I suppose Like for Dan McStay, it's his biggest season at Collingwood now. I felt like this season he went in with a free swing in the way that he hadn't. It never really felt like Dan McStay was a Collingwood football player until this season. So he had that grace period because of the injuries in and out, 23 ACL and whatnot. I think 25 was a fair means test to see where he's at and what he'll be like for Collingwood across the course of 24 games plus finals. And in the end, he doesn't even make it to see the final series. Dropped on the eve of finals for Mason Cox, and it was incredibly disappointing considering how much stock we had invested. Not monetarily, like he came as an unrestricted free agent. I think he's on $650 a year or something like that when he came over from Brisbane. Maybe someone in the chat can clarify, but I think mentally and spiritually we had a lot invested in someone like Dan McStay, where you needed him to be firing on all cylinders to help out Amaya, who struggled mightily in the forward in the final series. Mason Cox was. Yeah, he served a role. Kicked 2 goals against Brisbane in the prelim, okay? But yeah, Dan McStay playing as that second string ruckman and hopefully going forward to kick goals was going to be a point of difference for us, having not a truly recognised forward for the last 10, 15 years. A true recognised key-sized forward. So it wasn't to be. And yes, as we have come to find out that there have been factors outside of his control, being the shoulder injury, cartilage, which will see him out, like I said, till late Jan, which is quite some time on the sidelines. And then you factor in he played in that many different positions. Yeah. So there you go. TJ, quad and hip, Reef McInnes, ACL, will continue their rehab programs, while star midfielder Scott Pendlebury at Amani, whose calf spelled the end of his campaign minutes into the prelim final, is expected to be training fully on day 1 of preseason, which is good to hear. Very good to hear. Hello, Matty. Welcome. Let me say good day. Joshy, welcome. Chris Talbot, Stephanos, Mello, Benny Zero. Who else we got? We got Stewie. Yeah, righto, Chris. Righto, champs. Love my footy. Been watching the Mighty Vicks today and the Pezman. The Mighty Vicks. Cricket. Not really across that, am I? It's bad news as you'll struggle now to hit next season running and lift. Is that for Dan Houston, is it, Joshy? Badri, how are we? I know it's been, I think it's literally been 7 days since we've last done a live stream. And you know what? In our world, it feels like it's been, I'd say, it feels like it's been at least 2-3 weeks since we've streamed last. But that's the standard we hold here, guys, for each other. We're here every evening during the season and even the trade period. So it is a different vibe coming back in after a week with a bit of ring rust. But like I said, Badri, I think the bare minimum throughout this period will be once a week live streams, and then where I see fit, pending news, pending shows, the draft and whatnot. Those are the things that will dictate how many streams there will be on a weekly basis. Voidoid, I watched replays last night from early in the year. McStay was really on fire in the first half of the year. You could probably put him in the same, a lot of players in that same bracket, like the players who experienced the highest highs that couldn't meet those highs in the back half of the season were players like Myercheck, players like McStay, players like Ned Long. I feel like those players, amongst all of them, probably had the highest highs and the lowest lows, I would say. I mean, if you guys have any other names that spring to mind who were like really up here in the first half of the season, but then down here in the second half of the season, for the most part, let me know. The ruck rule just fucked us. Cameron refuses to jump. So how does it work? So where's the rule change? So it says here, it reads, at all center ball ups, a competing ruckman cannot cross the center line and engage with the opposition ruck prior to contesting the ball. Yeah, so he's not going to be able to get across and put a body on the opposing ruck before jumping, which will give the opposition, an athletic ruckman, a chance to do their thing, right? Okay. Curious? I'm sure we'll make it work, though. That's why we should have kept Cox for a season. Matthew, welcome. Hello from sunny Thailand. We recruited a third tall, then get angry that he's still a third tall. McStay can turn it around, needs to grow some testicles, says Ramani. Benny Zero here he is. Thanks for the fire, brother. What do you all think of the change to the stand rule will affect our plan by being one down on zone defense, stuck standing the mark? Well, the good thing is this rule that's been applied, which is essentially them just doubling down on the stand rule. So in times gone by, for those who are just coming to hear about this rule change, for times in 2025, the player on the mark has this window to decide whether they want to stand the mark or get out of the 5 meter zone. The next, the umpire, you hear the umpire says outside 5. So then they can work that zone. I think ultimately it's going to do a lot of zones trouble. I don't know if it's going to affect one team more or less. And how much does this rule change the game? I don't know. Look, at the end of the day, you'll see, yes, what you're going to see is there's going to be a player on the mark, and then another player is going to be able to have this overlapping handball receive option open. Does it create even more of an outside game? Like I'm mindful how much of a percentage-wise is this going to change things? I don't know. What do I think about the rule in itself? I think it leaves room for some horrible 50-meter calls. I just think the rule should have been abolished, and you just let the player on the mark cover the angle that they wish to. It's a part of the strategy. If they want to cover corridor, they'll cover corridor. If they want to cover boundary, they'll cover boundary. If they don't want to man the mark, then they don't have to man the mark. I think where you give the umpire opportunities to have more of a say in a game, I think you're leaving the door slightly ajar for the game to be ruined by umpires where they may be on a power trip or they may get a call wrong. I don't like it. I think, you guys, I'm very much a libertarian in some ways. So where we don't need the over adjudication, where we don't have to be governed by said rule, I'd prefer it to be that way, to be not governed and to not be on train tracks in a game where it can just be free flowing. That's how I'd prefer it. That's just me fundamentally as a person, and that's me fundamentally in sport. The less adjudication, the better. So, do I have anything else to add to that? In today's Pies Footy Journal, Cass reflects on the stand rule and the implications it has for the foreseeable future. So we've said over adjudication, fundamentally I disagree with. It leaves the door ajar for issues, for errors. Does it create more of an overlapping outside game? I just don't know how much one rule will change that. And then my last point to it all is just too many rule changes on a year-on-year basis. Like, you just don't see it in other sports. And the game's been around for, 150 years? Maybe a little bit longer, right? I just don't see this many rule changes in the NBA. I don't see this many rule changes in soccer. So, I don't know. Teresa, here we go. Notice no mention of my favorite in there. That's right. Brace yourself, everyone. It's happening. Are we talking about a certain Harvey Harrison fit and firing and ready to go on day one? Huh? Is that what we're saying? Voidoid says, stand rule change is dumb. Why on earth can't we have no rule? Just pay a free of the player if the player creeps over the mark. I'm with you, man. I'm with you, Voidoid. How many weeks until we go? How many weeks have we got until round 1? So, assuming... How about this? Let's do days. Assuming... Well, when did opening round... And we can talk about that as well, because that's been a talking point this week. Opening round, Collingwood, GWS. What date was that? Like the 22nd or something? Let's have a look. 8th of March, was it? So Sunday, like Collingwood's first guess was the first week of March. So let's say, how many days until 8th of March, 2026? And what day is it? Not interested. No, that doesn't sound right. Where are we? We're 130 days away from the 8th of March. Okay? So we're not too far away. Manny, he had domadas for testicles, says Stewie. Opa. Welcome, Shawnee. The stare, man, Matthew, you're hellbent on the idea of keeping Mason Cox in the sub. But remember, Matthew, remember last time we had one of these shows, we said, look, at the end of the day, players, we've got to find out about Oscar Steen, and you're probably not going to find out to the level that you need in 2026 if a Mason is on the list. So you've got to hedge your bets, which you do have to at some point say, all right, well, this is the way we're going, and we're going to live with it. Like we can't hang our hopes on keeping Mason Cox for another year. Frampton is another high. I thought Frampton Stephanos was pretty good for the most part of the year. I think Ned Long, who did we say? Ned Long, Dan McStay, and Myercheck in particular, who were really high performers in the first half of the season. You can't say Billy Frampton had a fall off a cliff like those players did at times. I think Billy Frampton was like a top 10 player in our team, and probably one of the most important players structurally when players weren't available, like a Darcy Moore, like a Dan Houston at times, if you want to throw him in, like a Jeremy Howe, especially when Reef got injured, he stood up. I think Billy, this season should not be forgotten. This was the year that Billy Frampton vindicated himself and proved that in the right system, with the team going about it in a certain way, he thrives. Stand rule sucks, but they have all preseason to train around. I mean, it is what it is, but I don't love it. Yeah, and when there's a new rule, whether it be real life or whether it be sport, there is always a massive overcorrection. Always. They will over-adjudicate, they will overcorrect. It's consistent. Consistent in the world of politics, it's consistent in the world of sport, it's consistent in the world of AFL. It's consistent in every endeavor. Even if you want to dumb it down real simple, if a coach says you need to work on your left foot, guess what? You're going to fixate on working on your left foot. You're going to try to overcorrect it, where ideally you don't fall in love with that notion. You still have to maintain a balance and belief that other things that are built around said game or said build of a player is also equally as important while you're still working on certain things. The last touch rule will affect us as we play the right side wing. Yeah, the last touch rule we'll see how it pans out. If you're a team that likes to hug the boundaries, do you run the risk of turning it over more? Maybe. Does that then subsequently invite a more corridor-based game? Curious. Does anybody that watched the sample throughout the course of the year, how did that change the game? I mean, like the AFLW is hard to get a gauge on because it's simply not men's footy. But if you watch the sample, which is men's footy, how does that change the game? Did it change the game? What are your thoughts if you've watched the sample? It's no different than the idiotic nominating for the ruck. I mean, can't the ump just pay a free if there's no more than 2 people contesting a ball? Yeah, I would say if the rucks are too far, I'm literally pointing at 2 players who are standing right next to each other. Right, you guys, you're going up for it. So if it's Paddy Cripps and Scott Pendlebury, fucking so be it. If it gets on with the game, if it avoids running the risk of free kicks or having a player or having a team not being able to compete in a ruck, it looks so dumb when there's like stacks of pairs of players around you, and then one ruckman is there in time, one isn't, and then that one ruck player, everyone just like enclosing on him, waiting for him to grab the ball so he can be tackled or kick it away. Like, why not just say, all right, these 2 players, you guys are closest, we're going up, let's go. If the rucks are taking too long, so be it. But so this is all in the aim of trying to make the game shorter. But genuinely, the only way this game gets shorter is if they shorten the lengths of the quarters. There's no other alternative. Like you're shaving. What are they shaving off 2-3 minutes to get where they want to be? I don't know. 2-3 minutes to get to where they want to be. 2-3 minutes gets them nowhere near where maybe the general consensus is and where it wants to be. Nowhere near it. Chris Talbot, Anthony, I like your video on Fred Rodriguez. Do you think we can get him in a draft? In the video, he looks good. In that Waffle Colts final. But I've got a handful of players in mind. I've done a couple. So we've talked about Fred Rodriguez. We've talked about Max Kondoyanis. And I've got a couple more players in mind that I want to talk about. I've got players such as, is it Liam Heatherton? I got Swadling. I got Threadgold. I think that's it. So I've got one outside of McCarthy, outside of Saxoner, outside of McGuan. I've got players like Kondo, Heatherton, Swadling, Threadgold, and Rodriguez. That's where I'm at right now. So, like, that's with me looking at all the power rankings. That's with me looking at players that would suit what we need, and just looking at the way we've drafted in recent years and going from there. Looking at the national champs highlights. Look, it is hard. Like, it is hard. I'm no draft expert. It's like incredibly difficult to get a grasp on. Okay, well, how is this guy going to transition from this level to that level? It was interesting. I was reading Finlay McCrae's draft bio. I'll pop it up. This is interesting. So I look at players, right, and I go, okay, well, like what did we love about certain players who didn't do well at AFL level for us? So the infamous 2020 draft, which was incredibly difficult for us. And it was difficult for their entire league due to the state of the world, right? Through COVID. I think Bo McCreary was our saving grace, really. And he was our last pick in that draft, pick 40-something. But looking at... So let's read the draft analysis of Finlay McCrae. McCrae is a classy midfielder who you want delivering the ball inside 50, boasting great composure and the ability to kick efficiently on both feet. McCrae is a prospect with great footballing pedigree, which we know, the half-brother of Western Bulldogs midfielder Jackson McCrae, who is now at St Kilda. Racks up high numbers. Capping off his bottom 8 season AFL Grand Final day. Cool. He became a lock for the year's AFL Academy intake and earned a National Combine invite. Despite being robbed of adding any top age form to his resume, McCrae looms as a potential first round option. So was he injured? Did he miss a bit of footy in... Oh, well, everyone was robbed of their top age season, right? So that makes it difficult, of course. His draft projection was 12 to 25. Given he's such a pure midfield talent, McCrae could well earn first-round status come draft time. It would be easy to think his name carries more weight than it does, but in reality, McCrae has earned such standing on merit. His effective disposal and ability to hurt opposition by foot going inside 50 will appeal to recruiters, as well as innate knack of finding the ball. So, in his bottom age year, he averaged 17 touches for the Oakley Chargers, which is okay. But what's interesting is the first part of it, and at the end it was mentioned as well, like his disposal efficiency was said to be a strength. A classy midfielder who you want delivering a ball inside 50. And then I go back and watch the highlights of Finlay McCrae playing for the Oakley Chargers in his bottom year. You go, all right, okay. He actually wasn't too bad going inside 50. And he could kick and can kick on his left and right. And you go, geez, this kid could be something. And I don't know, like I always said, like, I just feel like at the start of 2024, that was his opportunity to really announce himself and erupt. But I think he just lost his confidence once he wasn't selected for the start of 2024. I think from there it was a slippery slope and he never recovered. Had the shoulder reco this year and that set him back. But then still watching him in the VFL over the last couple of years, I think his big problem has been finding space. So when playing as an on-baller, it's like, okay, you're a good kick, but can you find the space to give yourself time to have that kick going inside 50 that they're talking about? Because a lot of the kicks in his draft year, or bottom age year, which he played in, a lot of his kicks weren't under a great element of duress. And then you factor in at VFL level, it's a completely different ball game. And then you have to go to the next level, the AFL level, to try find space in the midfield to be able to find space and efficiently go inside 50, which he just couldn't do, which I think was his biggest... It was his Achilles heel, his inability to get out of the contest and give us something going forward inside 50. Which is interesting. Marvel Man, would he have played if he wasn't injured most of the year? I do think that if Finlay didn't have that shoulder reco, there was an opportunity there. Where Lockie Sullivan played, I think Finlay had that opportunity there. Donnie, new segment, get him into the nest. What does that entail, Mr. Stewie, Mr. Victoria Park? Any news on Blight and Hobbs? No news on Blight, no news on Hobbs. I imagine if they are going to be given opportunities, it will be through the preseason period. Funny this morning, Candy Corn thinks we have no depth at all. We'll find out whether he's true or not, whether he's right. True? Hunter Holmes, well, depends. I mean, he's ranked somewhere between the 30s and 40s, which with pick 39, which will probably go to McCarthy for the most part. I think pick 45, which falls into the mid to late 30s. Like, there is an opportunity to snag someone. I just don't know if it's one of the players I've just mentioned or a Hunter Holmes. I'm not sure. I think we will only pick up 3 players and go to the SSP draft. I think 3 players. You got McCarthy, and then you probably got those picks 45 and 50, whatever it is, where you probably take a pick. So that's what? Yeah, 3 picks, right? So, and then from there, you're going to leave some space for the preseason supplementary period. Milkshake says, Fred is too slow. 3.17 20-meter sprint, and he doesn't kick goals or have tools to hurt you. He's a C grader, says Milkshakes. How does 3.17 measure against the top 10, top 20 milkshakes when it comes to sprinting. You know what's funny? Like Ed Allen, I think, was quite high up in that 20-meter sprint for the draft combine in his draft year in 2022, but he hasn't found a way to use that in the contest. Sure, he can use it in straight lines and in open field, but he doesn't have that agility to go with that sprint speed as well, which almost that at AFL level that they need to be working hand in hand, don't they? We're still looking at Saxon. I'm not too sure what's going to happen. Like, I think if anything, Saxon might be like a rookie B list because he's NGA. Get him on the rookie B list, and then he's outside of your salary cap, and it's a free swing. Tom Allen, do you think there is a possibility that we don't match McCarthy and take another person with pick 30? I'd be incredibly shocked if we don't go for a Zach McCarthy and go for someone else. So, yeah, I'd be incredibly shocked. I would be. Don't be surprised if HH slips. Hunter Holmes? Is that what you're saying? How many games, or what are we saying? What's going on? A bit of argy-bargy in the chat. What's going on? Too many HHs. Hunter Holmes, top 2 with 2.87 20-meter sprint. Yep. But, yeah, I'm curious what type of role like Hunter Holmes can be. He's a wingman at the moment, but what else can he be when he gets drafted into the AFL? Does he just go to Geelong? Is he a player we need in the next 5 years? Like, there's so many things to factor in. I just don't know. You reckon he slides super late, says Shawnee. Hunter Holmes will be a bolter as Max Holmes, who was taken at... Holmes was taken at pick 20, wasn't he? So somewhere in between, we took Henry, Reef McInnes, Caleb Poulter, all within like pick 19 and pick 30. And then the only real hit, to be fair, in that draft, in that between 20 and 30 was Max Holmes. So as much as we look back at that draft and go, fuck, like the Pies fucked that up, I think it was a difficult draft to get right because most clubs didn't get it right. So what do you do? Hunter is an inside-outside player, can play back, flank, wing, and mid, and is a running machine, much like his brother, Max Holmes. How much Chargers footy did you watch this year, Milkshakes? I doubt Hunter Holmes slips. I actually think the opposite will happen, and a club will take him because of his name. Yeah, but you don't want to get caught up in the name either. Getting caught up in the name might get you into more trouble. You know, falling in love with the name can, like... It can heavily backfire and doesn't look good on the club if you bring a player in because of the name, because of a sibling, because father son. It looks bad. Nepotism. Taking a risk based on emotion and not facts and numbers. I'm at the gym, Ben. You don't get my attention. I read the Hunter wants to play for Geelong, but we'll see. He will play wherever he gets drafted. Pick that. You know, we did that with Finn as the name. What are you saying, Josh? What does that mean? Holmes is the best talent. Fred is probably best on needs. Depends how we're looking at the draft. So I implore you guys to look at these players that I've mentioned. Heatherton, Swadling, Threadgold, Rodriguez, and Kondo Yanis. Now, whether these players go early second round, then that takes us out of calculations. But if they do fall later into the second round, early third round, that's where I think we're a chance. This gets completely blown out of calculations if we find a way to trade into the first round, okay? So there is that. I understand that. But just trying to be rational with the players we're looking at. Long as Endure Henry wants to go back to his mummy's milkshakes. Go on. Good one. Baby Ollie Henry, huh? Little babe. The shrug in a tackle, I like that, will be deemed prior opportunity. So the Jack Ginnivan play will no longer be awarded. So players like Nick Watson and Jack Ginnivan who do look for that contact and absorb that and shrug, I think that's a good implementation, in my opinion. Yep, that's right. Yes, we did that we've done that with players, father sons, Callum Brown, Tyler Brown, and while Callum Brown was okay, he wasn't horrible, was he? That can be seen as a bit of a rash decision. Finlay McCrae could be seen as one. So, yeah, with not falling in love with the McGuan name, I think we're redirecting ourselves in the right path, I think. Inside mids take time to come good as well. You'd be better off with a Phillips or Hobbs if you want instant impact. Yeah, I do wonder what's going to happen with the preseason supplementary selections. Like I said, I do feel like we'll have some space there, and who we invite, I'll be curious. It wouldn't surprise me if we draft Avery Thomas from Tassie. He's an athlete. Avery Thomas. Where has this name been? Has this name been floated around at all? Or is this sort of just a player that you've liked? Milkshakes. Let's have a look. Tasmanian defender, 185. I don't think we're going to take an Avery Thomas, in my opinion. I don't know where he's projected to go at either. I think we have way too many players in the 185 centimeter region in our defense. Like Jacob Ryan's about that height. TJ's about that height. Will Parker wouldn't be too far off it. You got Reef who's going to be there. Dan Houston's already there. Bruzzy's there. Like, it's just too many players around that mark where I think we've got good coverage there. Avery Thomas from the Devils. Yeah, I just don't think. What's his prediction? Projected to go probably early second round, potentially. I mean, like, if that was what was being said about the Camporellis, remember we were all talking about how McGuan was going to be top 5. So, take it with a grain of salt, right? Harry DeMatteis will step up this year. I feel this in my bones. I hope so. I hope your bones are telling you something right, my friend, Mr. Stewie. I hope you're onto something here. The whole conversation about this throughout the course of this off-season so far has been how important it is that those 3rd and 4th year players, we get some sort of return on it. Personal opinion, Phillips is a must. He's been harshly treated at North, in my opinion, needs an opportunity in the right system and he'll come good. I don't know, man. Like these are the judgment calls we just leave to the club. You can't say with great certainty that Phillips is a must. You can't. Like yes, I understand North Melbourne is not the club. They're not the blueprint of what a good culture should be, and like it's not the place where players are necessarily going to thrive growing up in. I understand that clearly. When you're a bottom 4 club, it's not going to be it's not going to be pretty for those kids, and some of those kids will get lost in that period of time. Will Phillips is one of them, but he can't. Like we're hearing, what are we hearing? He can't kick, which is crucial in this modern game. So I just don't know if you can say with absolute certainty that Phillips is a must. Same goes for Ben Hobbs. Another player from a club that has been bottom 4, bottom 6. They had that many injuries this year, and he played most of the season. I think they got a good look at him, and I don't even know if he got much midfield time. So like, if you're not getting midfield time in a team that has half their list injured, yes, I know they got Durham and they've got Caldwell and they've got Merritt, but like at some point you've got to break into the side that has half a list that's not available. So look, that's painting it that way, but then there's also me saying, all right, bring him in preseason supplementary period, see what they're about, see if they can find a new motivation in the black and white at training, build confidence and find a flow at training and show us something to consider that you're worthy of an opportunity to be rookie listed or whatever it may be. We thought Long was a terrible kick and he worked out well. Not all delistings are trash. I remember in Ned Long's first half of his VFL season last year, before he got AFL listed, I was screaming that Ned Long should be considered to be rookie listed. I think Ned Long, while he can't kick, I think he has a very dangerous weapon with his hand pass. I think his two-way running is important. His ability to tackle on the outside. When I say his handball is dangerous, his handball can often lead to goal-scoring opportunities. There was a time throughout the course of the season where he was top 20 in the league for goal assists. And he doesn't mind a goal-scoring opportunity. I think he can convert a few more of those as well. But like, what Will Phillips doesn't have size. Does he find the foot? Like Ben Hobbs doesn't have great size. Like Ned Long is 6'4", inside midfielder who can keep up on the outside. Just needs to work on. Okay, yes, his disposal isn't great, but his kicking disposals aren't great. But if he makes the right decision, he won't have to be overly reliant on his kicking efficiency. Yeah, he can't do a lefty. Ned Long shits you with his check side kicks. If your name is not Nick Dacos, if it's not Josh Dacos, if it's not Jordan DeGoey, if it's not Scott Pendlebury, I don't want to be seeing any check side kicks as passes. Like, just straighten up or use your left foot. Like, the art of being able to kick on your left foot has truly been lost. It's such a high level skill to be able to kick on the outside of your foot, which is obviously harder than the check side. I think, why not just learn to be able to use your left? You know, if you're able to kick on your left, you can get your opposition to bite on your kicks on the left, and then you can sell candy. People think you're going to kick on your right. You can then sell candy and put it on your left because you're competent on your left. It does give you more opportunities to get out of sticky situations if you can kick on both sides. Long has had some great kicks and he has improved throughout the year. Phillips has the inside game. It's on the club to find the yin to his yang, which we already have. Look, we'll see, mate. We'll see. We'll see, Shawnee. We'll see if he gets an opportunity to train, and then we'll just go for there. Essendon will squeeze for list spots too because they re-signed 3 mid-season draftees. I mean, if you're not being re-contracted, if you're not being offered a contract because 3 mid-season draftees have taken your position, then what does that say? What does that say? That's tough. Tough. How did Geelong go tag in the grand final? Not great, did they, Ricky? Ava, welcome. How are you? Long's kicking. Look, I felt like there was a bit of a timeline with Ned Long and his kicking. I think early in the season, he took a lot of long kicks, which had less margin for error. I'd have to watch it back, but I just remember late in the season, I felt like he would blaze away rather than giving the hand pass. I felt like that happened a lot, which early in the season he was giving that hand pass. Yeah, I'd have to watch it back. Lack of vision, perhaps at sometimes. Lack of composure. But there were definitely periods where his kicking was good. And you go, okay, well, shit, maybe his kicking isn't that bad. But then you tie in a few poor kicks with an element of poor decision making late in the season. You go, okay, well, that's the Ned Long we were talking about in the preseason, who we said doesn't really have that penetration and kicking ability. But look, he gets to build on a really strong 2025 throughout this preseason. It's a massive year for Ned Long. Change your game, Stewie, huh? Our coaches need help more with kicking skills. Hawks Mitchell stays back and does extra sessions to personally help these players with good kicking is good footy. So in any place where we can see players work on their kicking skills. Look, I'm sure players are trying to squeeze every bit of juice left in the lemon or the orange, whatever fucking juice you like, right? So, look, I would imagine Ned Long is speaking to the kicking consultants of the world, and I'm sure indoors they're working on their kicking technique. Off season, how much are they working on their kicking technique? Like, these are things we don't see. And how much can you change someone's kicking technique after 20, 25 years of their life? So there's that as well to consider. Guys, anyways, I'm going to leave it there. I don't know when the next stream will be. Like I said, I can promise that there will be at least one stream a week. As we get closer to the draft, which is mid-November, we'll up the frequency there. But yeah, until then, it'll just be normal videos and 1 or 2 live streams a week. But I appreciate you all for being here. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, go Pies.